Wow. 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 That second half blew me away. Not going to lie, guys. Not going to lie. Welcome to Newcastle Fans TV, people. Newcastle United pick up fifth. We pick up our fifth straight win in some style in that second half. The adjustments that Eddie Howe made, switching up to basically a 4-4-2. Joe Ellington kind of had a new role. Anthony Gordon, a game-changing substitution as well. Callum Wilson doing a fantastic job, honestly. Let's get on the fans, man. Let's get on the fans. What a sensational win, guys. Make sure you're hitting the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. 2-1. Take it away. One of you.
Go on, man.
Go on, Ted.
Okay. First half, honestly, first half until halftime, I was like, just lose. Like,
right,
the
I
game
thought that was,
it felt like that. And then Eddie Howe made 2 changes, which basically changed the game. Made it 2-1. To be honest, it should have been 3-1. But yeah, I think, that's the second time this season that we've come back from behind. So, 5 wins in a row, that now gives me a lot more belief, heading into our final 8 games or whatever it is of the remainder of the season, that we can get top 4, that it's that now resilience from the team, and that we can, change the game. How can do that. So, but, first half, just from that alone, was just a terrible watch. But I'm happy with the result either way.
That's the whole thing about this, man. We put that first half is dreadful. Probably the worst first half besides Brighton away this year that I can think of, and Sheffield Wednesday in the Cup, which we weren't good for the whole game. So for me, that second half was incredible from Eddie Howe. The substitutions were game changers. Anthony Gordon, for me, has solidified his place in that starting 11. Absolutely.
You might not have after the commotion you had with Eddie Howe.
Well, I fair point, I guess. But we'll also add in Ginger Swizz. What's going on, man?
Not much. My heart rate's still about sky high after that.
Yeah, talk to me, man. Talk to me. What are you feeling about that? Talk to me, man.
Oh, I can't help but be, especially when it's away games, you can't help but be stressed because you're not in the ground just to let it all out. Sitting here stewing at home watching that, especially after that first half.
Yep.
Definitely. I think the impressive thing is that Man United played before us, put the pressure on, and we've reacted. We've had a poor first half, and then we've showed that we're not just in the Champions League places by luck. We've got the mentality to go and get the Champions League spot. Brentford is that the second time they've lost at home this season?
Yes. Yeah.
That says it all.
And the fact that we gave them a goal lead as well. I mean, it's
while also playing against the referees and VAR as well.
Well, that's what every team in the Premier League faces one of these days. Again, I don't even bother complaining about the refs anymore. It's
I'm
pointless.
quite lucky I was in the car for the second penalty decision. I was listening on the reruns for the second penalty. But all I could hear was everybody whinging, the amount of time it's taken, the angles that the referee was given, which kind of sold the penalty to them. It's hard to comment because I actually haven't seen the decision, but from what I can gather from third party, it was
soft. It was the argument that something needs to be a clear and obvious error doesn't hold weight when it takes 3 or 4 minutes to reach that decision. So when you've got a referee who makes a call, and then you have VAR sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, you've clearly made an error," but the only error that was in there looked soft. Isak's leg was not up at his head; it wasn't up at the head level of the player. The Brentford player was going into contact. Isak didn't see him before it came in. It's incidental contact, really. And if that's a penalty, then the shout that we had against Man United when Bruno Fernandes kicked Fabian Schär just grazed him in the head, that should have been a penalty. There's no standard, there's no consistency, there's no set standard. I think that's the main thing that people are complaining about. If that was the standard every week, then people wouldn't raise their legs very high, and then that's fine. It becomes an accepted standard. But because it's so inconsistent,
you've just said it. That's the best argument I've heard of against VAR. That if it's clear and obvious, why is it continuously taking minutes? Not a minute, minutes to make decisions.
Right.
Then the argument, the VAR system itself would work if the referees themselves were consistent, right? We've been saying for years, even before VAR, the referees in England have not been of the required standard. If you gave VAR a time limit, especially for contentious decisions like that, then say you have a minute to decide. If it takes longer than a minute, then it's not really clear and obvious.
Right.
You set some kind of framework for how it should work, because we need to remember as well, this isn't a finished version of VAR. They want to implement VAR on more types of decisions too. So the main challenge is you need to raise the standard of the officiating.
But they don't care about that. This is the most lucrative league in the world. Unless people worldwide boycott it and boycott games, buying merchandise, all that stuff, the Premier League has zero incentive to improve anything.
The other problem that you've got, Steve, is, I don't know if you've noticed, is sometimes the angles that the referees are shown aren't all of the angles available. Surely they should say, well, you can see it from this angle first, then watch it. You've got 4 angles or whatever the angles you've got available. Don't just show them the most blatant angle against him. Show the angle that he's seen as well, because he's made a decision based on an angle that he's had. Let him see that in slow-mo and let him base his decision on the angle that he's seen it from. Then let him see the angle that he hasn't seen, and then let's see if he's made an error. Some of the decisions just, I mean,
and it's not just us.
4 minutes.
It's a league-wide issue with every single team. Every single team has gotten shafted or have benefited from it. I mean, the Man United away game, they probably should have had 2 penalties, or at least one of them. So, I mean, it's something that I'll talk about it and whatever. But it's just
so much horrible for the fans and players when you've scored a goal and half the time you don't know whether to celebrate or not. Look at Elliot Anderson and his goal the other week.
It spoils the fun, right? It spoils the fun. Because now when a goal is scored, I remember it was the Wolves game with Almiron's late winner with the deflected shot. And you watch that go in, and I'm just sat there next to my dad, and the two of us are just sitting there thinking, this is going to be VAR, isn't it? It's going to be chalked off. And you can only really start celebrating once you know it's been confirmed on VAR. But I think the VAR, the soft VAR decisions, it's an easy thing to pick up on as well. There were other issues with us today that have been a problem for a few months now that led to that first half that we saw. Right, it's quite clear that we just need more players. Like the lack of depth is frankly in your face at this point. Players who are playing 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes every single game, like Willock and Longstaff. That's why Longstaff looked so bad today in the first half, because he's clearly just run into the ground.
Knackered.
Yeah.
Completely knackered.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, but then that obviously that necessitates the tactical changes that Eddie Howe made. That then opened up the game for us, being able to bring off Longstaff and bring off Murphy, to bring on some energy in midfield.
And the fact we switched to 4-4-2, which is something that I've talked about with Andy multiple times. I'm like, I'm not going to be surprised if he does this. I'm not going, because at Bournemouth they would sometimes go 4-4-2.
Yeah, it's like a 4-4-1-1 or a 4-2-3-1. Isak kept dropping into that 10 spot, into that hole, and that was one of the problems that Brentford had with dealing with us in the second half, was with Isak dropping off and Wilson staying as the focal point up front. Their back three was being pulled apart, and you could find there was more pockets of space for us to find in between the centre backs, and it made it a lot easier for balls to be fed in through the half spaces and in behind from out wide. It was a really good tactical decision from Howe, and we've seen it a couple times this season. Like we saw it against Fulham, right? One of the reasons we were able to win that game was because Isak was able to drop into that 10 spot, and his flexibility. He's looking fully like the 60+ million euro forward that we bought, right? He looks so languid and fluid on the ball. He's a proper modern centre forward. He can play anywhere in that front three, in the 10 spot. He can link up with anyone. He's so much faster than you give him credit for as well, because he's so lanky. His long stride really chews up ground quickly.
Yep.
He's such up close receiving the ball. You notice the difference when he plays with Wilson, how much better Isaac's first touch is than Wilson's.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Wilson's is terrible. That's that's not a criticism of Wilson. It's just acknowledging how much better Isaac's first touch is when he comes deep. And he's, a couple of times he went out wide and he was challenging with one or two players holding the ball up. And it wasn't so much his strength and how dangly, as you say, it's just his first touch buys him space to be able to manipulate his body to either play a pass or then hold the ball and bring others into play. And not only that, beat somebody as well. I was saying to Lee before, I don't think I've seen a player being able to do that since the likes of Bergkamp.
Wow.
That's a big comparison. I think it's one of the things that you just don't see outside of like top players in Europe nowadays. I think Wilson's, they're obviously very different players, like we say, but Isak's the kind of player that normally, if it wasn't for the takeover and the revival of the team, Isak wouldn't have come to us. There's a reason why he was linked to the likes of Arsenal, right? He was due a move to a big club, even with his sort of down year in his last season at Real Sociedad. I think another thing that did help us though, in that second half, was some of the changes we forced Brentford to make when they brought, particularly in the last sort of 20-30 minutes of the game, when they started to make changes.
Pontus Jansson got subbed off. One of those.
Pontus Jansson going off.
Yeah.
Josh Da Silva going off was important. I think Christian Norgard going off was big for us.
Yeah, no, God,
him going out and Vitaly Janelt being brought in meant that. I mean, Norgard is one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion. He isn't the defensive numbers he puts up are phenomenal. One of the big reasons we were able to start finding space, especially even in the dying moments, was because there was no six sitting in front of their back line. So we were able to start exploiting some space. And in the second half, they started shifting out wide and pushing up higher as a team, meaning that there was a lot of space in between the lines, and their back line didn't compensate for that. They weren't able to push their centre-backs high enough to really give their midfield confidence that they could take on Isak, Bruno and Joelinton, who were sort of trying to stretch them and move, and they were expanding and contracting the space they held a lot to sort of pull Brentford apart, and it really worked.
Steve, I'm going to have to get off, but I'm going to ask everyone one question to discuss before I go. The reaction of Gordon when he got took off. Now, I could understand if that was like with 10 minutes to go after being subbed on, but when there's seconds to go, everyone wants to play. But that didn't seem. I think there's going to be more said about that later on. I don't think there's anything in it. Sorry?
I don't think there's anything in it, to be honest. I think these are all, like you say, we're in the dying moments of a really tight, emotional, quite chippy game.
He's a young lad as well.
He's young. He wants to make a good impression. He's gonna be a bit frustrated that he's come off. What matters is how he reacts after tensions have cooled, after tempers have cooled down a little bit. If he's then still bitter that he got brought off, even though he was a sub himself, then
I actually think Eddie Howe might like it. I think Eddie Howe might like it.
He's going to like the fact that he doesn't want him brought off. I think that it's the more that Eddie Howe had a hold of him, and he was pushing him off.
Right. Yeah, no, I kind of side with.
I think straight away what will happen there is just one of the big lads in the squad, like a Dan Burn. When I say big lads, I don't mean statually, I mean vocally.
Yeah,
we'll have a word, and it'll get nipped in the bud. But I'm torn in between whether I like that from Gordon or I don't. That's why
I love it. I love it. I think it speaks to the raw, like these guys are warriors. These guys are savages. These guys are on cloud nine, and we're battling tooth and nail for everything. So I kind of like it.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is probably a bigger win than Man United. Honestly, do think that. Well, take care, everybody. Please hit the like button for everybody.
Yes, and got 117 people then.
Man. Get in. Take care, guys.
See you, Andy.
See you there, Andy.
Take care, bro. No, but yeah, let's see what the people saying about this Anthony Gordon thing. He's probably upset about being told off for giving too many fouls. That could be it. Gordon has a good footballing brain and some nice deft touches. Good to see him getting more minutes. I think he should be starting. I'd
agree. I think that cameo gives Howe a problem for the Villa game, like whether or not Gordon should start that. He shows he has ambition when he's on the ball, Gordon, and you see it when you watch him play. He's constantly looking to make a forward pass. He wants to pass in between the lines. He wants to make a pass, then immediately run. It's one of the things that separates him out. As much as Murphy's played well recently, his decision making can often let him down. And Gordon, being young and being technically quite good, he has the ambition and the skill to try and take it on. He's a bit fearless on the ball, which is sort of what we need at the moment. We need guys who can like cut inside, run to the byline, do all sorts of stuff, be quite versatile with their play. And it really did help. I do think he might get given a start against Villa, but we all know what Howe's like when it comes to changing a winning side. He's more likely, I think, to keep the starting 11 the same.
To me, it don't matter. Honestly, I don't care who plays against Villa because we're on 5 straight wins. Whatever the hell Eddie Howe wants to do, he can do. It don't matter to me. If you want to play a one center back formation and you think that's going to win it, well, go for it. Roll the dice because this guy is just everything he's touching turns to gold. Substitutions, in-game management, all the stuff that the top managers have. He's starting to really show that on a big scale, with a club that's going on an upward trajectory. And he does not look like a man out of place whatsoever. So for me, I'm absolutely loving this. This is sensational. But yeah, man. Do you think Wilson and Isak starting together should be a regular thing? I'll ask 10. Hit this one, bro.
I actually kind of like him. I kind of like having Wilson or Isak being the substitute. So just to kind of change it up, because I don't think Eddie Howe would change up his sort of system of a 4-3-3. And like today's game and a few other games previously, when we had to kind of change it up a bit and win the game, then that's when you put on a Wilson or whoever is on the bench, Wilson or Isak, to kind of change it up a bit and to add a little bit more attacking and pressing quality. So I think it's kind of like the X factor, I would say, having one of them off the bench and having both on the pitch if we need to have that sort of change in the way that we play. Just like how it was in the start of the second half. It basically changed up the game.
I think this could potentially, I'll hit this one real quick. I think next year when we play European football, probably Champions League, it's looking like that, certainly in my opinion. 3 wins in a week speaks to my confidence in that. I think this could be crucial in Europe because you've got a plan A and a plan B. You've got a plan. So if a certain side, let's say a Spanish side, more technical quality, maybe a 4-4-2 works more. So you can match technical prowess and match it up with physicality and a 2 up front that can really offer something. I mean, that's my take on it personally. So I wouldn't be surprised if next year we see something like that. But what do you think of this, Ginger?
If they're given more time to sort of gel together on the pitch, I think it could work quite well. We saw a few moments in the second half where Isak would get the ball in the hole and would turn to try and find Wilson, but you can just tell they're not on the same wavelength on the pitch because either something would be overhit or it would be hit behind Wilson and it would lead to a loss of possession or a breakdown in the play. I like, as we're just saying, I like the idea of having one of them as a substitute. I think, like we say, it adds a plan B. When Wilson came on, it allowed us to be very fluid around him as the focal point. Basically, him playing as a poacher come target man, effectively, a guy who can play with his back to goal, and that Isak the fullbacks, the 2 6s, and our 2 wingers can all sort of be a bit fluid. You saw times when Gordon would cut inside and go towards the left, and you'd have Isak going out further to the right, and it worked really, really well. I mean, you can see it statistically as well. The fact that Brentford created just over 2.5 expected goals in that game, and 1.9 of that was in the first half. We only created 0.2 in the first, but around 1 in the second. So it clearly had an effect. But we actually managed to get shots on. I don't think we got a shot on target in the first half.
We had one shot, I think, total in that first half.
Yeah, it was one or two, and I definitely think it definitely wasn't on target. Brentford don't get me wrong, Brentford are a very good side, especially at home.
Tony, those 2 guys were working us, working our whole team, stretching the field. Shada was giving Botman, was giving him hell on earth, man. But
games like this are the ones that let you see why some people raised questions about Botman when he came into the league. There were criticisms saying that Botman can't handle pace, and he's obviously adapted brilliantly to the Premier League. But there are still signs every now and again that he can be beaten for pace. And that's just what Brentford are pretty good at. We came up against a team that is set up in a way that we've not handled particularly well at times this year. As good as we've been, teams that can really hit you on the counter have been a weak spot for us, largely because we don't have a dedicated 6 sitting in front of a back line, and we rely on a back 3, 2 of which are quite pace limited, let's say, at centre back. But in terms of the original question of whether or not Wilson and Isak should be starting together, I'd like to see it if Howe thinks it's viable. We'd need more forwards in first, though, to make it in terms of the squad feasible. We need, because God forbid if we're in a game and one of them gets injured and you're running with one striker yet again, we need some more players, like another 2 forwards, if we're going to be playing like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Great point here from Adam Phillips as well. Beat West Ham and Brentford without being at our top best. Character of this team is unbelievable. That's my first takeaway from today. The character, again, is immense. And number 2, the momentum shifts of that game. We handled it, and we were I can't even talk. We were dreadful that first half. How Brentford didn't go 3-0 up in that first half, I'll never know. And
Nick
2
Pope.
penalties, only considered. Yeah. And Nick Pope even made, a few errors in terms of the distribution and whatnot. But he's still shot stopping wise. He's without a question a fantastic goalkeeper. So it's encouraging, man. It's very, very encouraging. Isak is straight up the one. He took talk to me about Isak.
That goal, the goal from Isak was
ridiculous.
Was really good. It
was an excellent finish. I mean, like I was saying earlier, he's looking like the 60 million euro forward that we signed. You have to just wonder, as a what if question, like what if he didn't get injured on international duty? What if we'd had that all season long, right? Like we'd be sitting here, we probably wouldn't have gone through as much of a dry spell after the World Cup in terms of scoring, with Wilson not being able to hit the back of the net. Isak being on the form he is at the moment for January would have meant we would probably be comfortably 3rd right now. But that's sort of nitpicking, right?
But again, it speaks to the character of the team. The fact that we didn't have our 60 million pound forward for a large portion of the season. He comes in right away, makes a difference. That's 5 in 5 for Isak. 5 in 5. It's unbelievable. He's a special player. Very, very special player. And he looks like a bargain at 60.
He's starting to. It makes you wonder next season when we have wingers that can actually create. And when we'll probably have either Bruno playing as an 8, or we'll probably have another creative midfielder in there ahead of Bruno, having more players, and even then probably a dedicated left back who can compete with target, right? That's more creativity to feed Isak. and better quality players up front and out wide means that we'll also be able to be more flexible. I think next season, if everyone's fully fit and firing, we could be a terrifying team to play against.
We already are. That's the crazy part. This is from Vincent, by the way. Oh my God. Only Haaland has a better goals to game ratio in the whole league. Albeit Isak is on a smaller scale, but that's still that again, it just speaks to when you play Isak, he'll score. Ian, 8 and 14. So again, this guy's
that's including what, 4 substitute appearances, I think, or 3 substitute appearances for Isak.
Unbelievable.
So I think he's like 1 in every 110 minutes. If I don't quote me on that.
No, it's around that mark, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. He's getting so at the moment. I don't think this includes. Yeah, this doesn't include today's game yet, but he's averaging a non-penalty goal every other game right now, basically. Not 0.45 per 90.
Next year. I'll say that much in all comps. He'll get us 30, 35, I think. If he stays injury-free, he'll get 30 to 35. I think so.
In all competition, I think it's very possible. If we can play like the way we have at times this year, I think it's absolutely possible. So so far, he's getting 0.86 goals per 90 in the Premier League this season.
That's absurd.
Which is foul, and that is the joint best record of his entire career so far.
Yeah.
I think his pace and his ability, his technical ability, has helped him adapt to the Premier League brilliantly, I think.
Hippie here. I'm still astounded at the change in fortune we've had from last season. I was hoping for a top 10 finish in season. Third is phenomenal. I said 7th at the beginning of the year. I said 7th. When we beat Spurs away, I was like, all right, that's top 4. We're getting top 4.
I said 10th. 10th in a cup run with 10th in a I'm not
got the cup final spot on.
Yeah. 10th in a cup run, I would have been absolutely delighted with. I think now, though, the problem is we're in a situation like Arsenal were last season when they came to us at the end of the year. Our expectations have adjusted now as a fan base. Most of us, I think, would probably say we'd be disappointed if we didn't get top 4, given the form we're in. Yeah. If we end up last couple games giving up top 4, I think we'd be disappointed. But you'd still have to step back and say that this is the best season I think Newcastle's had since Sir Bobby Robson was manager.
We're only 9 points behind. Only 9 points behind the Alan Podger team that finished 5th.
9 points.
With what, 9 games to go?
Yeah, something like that.
Double check that.
And usually to get Champions League football, you need usually
75, 70. Yeah.
Yeah, 70 plus points this season will do it.
So that's kind of like, let's say, 4 wins and a couple of draws. Hopefully that does it. And we still have...
Well, you look at our remaining games.
The home games, I feel like we can win all, apart from Arsenal. I think that would probably... That'll be tough. But I think we beat Spurs at home.
It's the old adage, right? That if you win your games at home and you don't lose the ones away, that usually leads you to have 70-ish points in a season. Yeah. That's usually good enough for top 4. Our next run of the remaining run of games as well, like there's definitely mostly winnable games in there, right? Away at Villa on the 15th, home at Tottenham on the 23rd. That's going to be a hell of a game,
by the way.
That's a tough
one. That's another litmus test.
If we play like we did in the first half against Villa, it would certainly be 3-0. Yep.
So we definitely got to be careful.
I mean, they're up to 6th now with results as they are. I think they're up to 6th. They've played a couple games more than the teams at Brighton. I think one more than Liverpool, I want to say. But they've been one of the best teams in the league post World Cup, right? Ollie Watkins scoring again. So that'll be a hard game, especially it's a week break, but hopefully some of the lads can get some rest between now and then.
And so early kickoff, so
it's still unreal what's happened in the past 18 months. The turnaround is I've only seen a handful of teams around Europe do what we've done. I'm thinking Union Berlin got promoted to the Bundesliga first ever time about 4 years ago, finished 7th, then 5th, and now they're probably going to be Champions League next year. I'm thinking Lens in France, promoted 7th, and now they're second in Liga.
Well, we've got our own comparison,
PSG.
right? We've got our own comparison. You look at when Keegan brought us up from the old second division.
Yeah,
we immediately
92.
finished third.
Yes.
And even like
we have our comparison.
18 months ago, we had 14 games without a win last season.
We started off the year no wins until December when we beat Burnley 1-0.
Yeah,
Yes, because I remember I shed a little tear at the end of that game. I was in the East Stand watching that, and I was sitting there. I was crying at the end of that. Because only 3 teams in Premier League history have ever started a season without a win in the first 14, and we're the only one to have survived. Right? We literally did something unprecedented.
And we didn't just survive on the last day or anything. We were safe by I don't know,
by
10 games to go.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
it's astounding, and that's the thing, man.
And
that's
then,
what Eddie Howe. No, go on, Ted. Go on.
Oh no, you go ahead. Steve.
I was just gonna. Yeah, no worries. I was just gonna say, and that's what Eddie Howe did with Bournemouth. Essentially, he's taking us on the track that Bournemouth were on, from rock bottom of. I forget if it was either League 2 or League 1. I think it was League 2. Up another level. League 1. Up another level. Championship. I think they spent 2 or 3 years there battling for promotion, then got it. Premier League. Survived barely in their first season. I think in the second or third year they finished 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, he's just doing this is what Eddie Howe does. It's what Eddie Howe does. He takes you up levels. We'll just see how far it goes.
To play devil's advocate, though, there is a ceiling there if we're copying the trajectory, right?
Of course.
If we're going from relegation to Champions League, up, what is the equivalent for us?
Right.
It wouldn't be the thing for us. The hump to get over is winning things, right?
Yes.
The equivalent of getting us to the Premier League from. Not even the bottom of League 2. If Bournemouth had gone down that season, they would have gone out of business. They didn't just save themselves; they were on the brink of being wound up. They
Pretty
were
sure he
going.
paid some players' wages, if I'm not mistaken. Crazy
Yeah,
stuff like that.
They bought kit out of their own pockets as well. All that sort of stuff. Eddie Howe didn't even want to be a manager at the time. He didn't even know if he wanted to do it.
He got injured. Who did he play for? Portsmouth?
Oh, I can't remember.
He had a playing career in the lower leagues, and then he got injured, and then he became a manager because of that. Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal.
He ended his playing days at Bournemouth.
Aye, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Started at Bournemouth, went to Portsmouth, made 2 appearances, came back to Bournemouth.
Right, makes sense. Yeah.
No, but in terms of our trajectory is, I mean, the thing that's holding us back right now is just finances, right? It's going to be towards the end of the season, seeing what new sponsorship deals come in, seeing who can ship out of the club. Because at the moment, it's realistically, it's wages to turnover, right? It's the ratio of how much we're spending on salaries versus how much we earn as a club. And that, I think, the last time. There was a Kieran Maguire on Twitter breaking that down, saying we're spending 96% of our revenue at the moment on wages, which is unsustainable, and especially given the changes to financial sustainability rules, meaning that it's going to go to percentage limits rather than a hard monetary limit over a 3-year period.
Every 3 years they measure it as well.
Yeah, if it's a rolling 3-year period, you can't lose more than 105 million, and that's including 15 million in ownership injections. But then it's going to go to a percentage limit, right? It's going to go to 90% revenue to wages, then it's 80, then it's going to sit at 70 permanently, and that's going to be the limit. So effectively, you're gonna have, as we well know, the only way we're going to keep progressing as a club is just to start ramping up our commercial activity. And also to start doing what Brighton and Brentford and clubs like that have been doing on a much bigger scale in in the Dan Ashworth mold of find players from obscure leagues, bring them in, improve them, sell them on for big money. That's what we're going to start doing.
Yeah. And if you speak of that, there's another thing that Eddie Howe has gotten spot on from Bournemouth days to now, recruitment. Look at his players he's brought in. Not many of them have failed. You can say what you want about Solanke, I suppose. Maybe that's the one dud, but other than that,
Solanke and Ibe. The Solanke and Ibe are the ones that people always hold up as this gotcha of, Eddie Howe can't buy players. Like, when we all perfectly well know that Bournemouth's transfer strategy at the time was get cheap gambles on, or for them, relative to their size, big gambles on either youngsters from other clubs that weren't getting minutes or veterans who were on the way out. Bring them in, get the most you can out of them. Yeah, well, Ibe and Solanke are the two that they hold up, right? Ibe didn't work. Solanke eventually came good. It just
Solanke got him promoted.
Yeah, but then you look at the other ones though. You look at some of the signings they brought in that became perfectly serviceable players for them, the likes of Harry Arter, they were the first ones to bring in Tyrone Mings. I think they brought him from Ipswich. They brought in, obviously, if you like you say, Philip Billing. They brought in Ryan Fraser. They had Matt Ritchie originally. They had David Brooks. They had Wilson, Josh King. Like, all these guys who'd come in,
goalkeeper
and done brilliantly.
Ramsdale,
and now
Nathan
Ake. Yeah.
So there, right there, is incredibly good recruitment.
And then, all you really need to look at as well for us, and look at his track record so far. And we've heard from our most trusted media sources, that you've heard from The Athletic, George Culkin and co, saying that especially in the first January window, Howe was acting as our director of football. He was the one effectively saying, "These are the guys I want." And you look at all those transfers since. You cannot really say any of them have failed, including Chris Wood, considering the amount we've gotten back for him.
Yeah.
Right. So far, the transfer record is pretty damn good. And then, given who we've been linked to, and given the types of players we apparently want in terms of physical and technical profile, next season it's going to be another season of bringing in guys who are lightning fast, big, strong, and powerful players. We're building a team that's not dissimilar to Liverpool's early years under Jurgen Klopp.
Or
Powerful,
Mourinho,
physically
with the
capable.
height of our back line.
Yeah.
Besides Trippier.
Yeah. Maximize the size advantage. Maximize your physical capability and output. Like you say, like akin to Mourinho's early teams at Chelsea, or Jurgen Klopp's early Liverpool sides is the one that I see the most parallels with. A team that can press you off the pitch, can really hem you in, pen you in, and just force you into error. And one of the big problems we have at the moment, obviously, is depth. You have more depth, you have more capability to enact that press. We saw at the start of the year, we were the best pressing side in the league. Now we've had to be flexible and be more effective with it and press at the right times, whereas before we could just press and press and press and keep going. Yeah. And that's what depth will bring. Depth is going to bring even more intensity next year.
Exactly. Like the Man United game. We pressed in spells. We were selective.
Mm-hmm.
But we still had control of the game from pretty much the
first 5 minutes. After the first 5 minutes.
It was pretty much our game. Yeah. So, yeah, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, this is Eddie's team. Make no mistake. He's not copying anyone. This is the Howe. It is kind of, you can't draw parallels to others like we've been doing with Klopp, Liverpool early days, and Mourinho, whatever. But there is something pretty unique about Eddie Howe's kind of the way he sets it up. And that's what you got to have as a manager, a distinct identity that sets you apart from others.
Mm-hmm.
A plan A and a plan B, because your plan A can be terrific, but it's not going to work every single time. Our plan B today and the in-game adjustment substitutions paid off. It really, really did. So
yeah, I mean, like Ian said, like this is Eddie Howe. This is what he wants to do, right? Yeah. I mean, we heard first. It was first made public by Byrne, wasn't it? He's the one who said intensity is our identity. Yeah, and that's what Howe wants us to be, a physical powerhouse. and that's what we are. And he wants us to play a forward-thinking, attacking football. That's what we do. And one of the things that is definitely been shut down was all the original questions, myself included, when he was first appointed, of his defensive capabilities. He's proven that he is the sort of manager that you cannot quantify his ability to improve himself. Yes. It was the same when Patrick Vieira first came into the Premier League. You look at his time at Nice, wasn't very good, and then it was so much better. Yeah. And then Howe's time at Bournemouth, defensively, you would say even naive. Goes away. The very well talked about sort of working with Simeone and among other coaches, going to rugby teams, working with Klopp.
Culture. Huge emphasis on culture of the club. Huge.
Oh, it's what was it? Trippier was asked about the parallels with the All Blacks, right, in rugby, the no dickheads policy, right? It was there is no room, even with some of the egos we have. There is no room for someone who thinks they're bigger than the club.
Absolutely not. And that's why Eddie Howe's kicked Ryan Fraser to the curb, pretty much. So, yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah, exactly. So he'll definitely be, gotten rid of the series. Yeah. So, but yeah, let's look at this Premier League table. It's madness. I mean, Spurs,
5 wins on the bounce.
5 wins on the bounce. Only Arsenal have done that, it looks like.
27 goal difference.
That's madness. It's the third best in the league. Sorry, third best in the league by some distance.
It's going to be what? It's potentially going to be something that will come in very handy for us. At the end of the season, if we end up level on points with Man United, our defense is so much better, and we're scoring more goals than them. It will come in really handy if it comes tight.
Yeah, Eddie Howe's in the reckoning for Manager of the Year, him and Arteta. I mean, if Arteta bottles the Premier League title, that's us. That's Eddie Howe.
That's Howe. Yeah.
That award, easy.
Yeah.
Or Unai Emery. Actually, you know what? I do have to give Unai Emery plaudits. But I would edge it to. No. Yeah, that's true. Anyways, Connor's in the building too. What's going on, man? Talk to me.
Probably pick.
Hello, Steve. Another good one on the board. 5 in a row. Can't complain. I thought today it all changed when Eddie Howe made the subs in the second half, because I thought the first half we were off it. We looked like a team, in all fairness, who had just played 2 pretty physical games over the last week, and we struggled to get out of the blocks a little bit. That being said, for me, there's no way that we should have had 2 penalty kicks against us in that game. I think the first one is a Stone Cold penalty. Yeah. You can't deny that. He's just wiped him out. The second one, I can't understand how it's a penalty. Ivan Toney doesn't see Henry coming. Henry has thrown himself in to try and get the ball. Tony's got every right to compete for that ball. His leg isn't actually high because it's sort of more midsection. And I don't really know why it was given, because if you're going to give penalties like that, and you're going to remove the ability for a lot of defenders to make efforts to go for the ball, because as long as the striker just jumps in front of them when they do it, then it's a penalty kick, apparently. So that was an issue. And I also thought Callum Wilson was harsh that his goal didn't stand, because when you look at it in the replay,
that's not handball.
Sort of the Premier League sort of bad.
It's like your kind of here.
Yeah, what are you supposed to? If it's a shoulder, if it's above the shot or any description, if it's hit the shot, can't.
And also,
and of course, at that point, they get a for VAR giving them that let off, because all of a sudden they've had a scare. You could have been 2 behind. You're not. You're still in the game, and then we had to change as they did as well. Which, to be fair, I thought Eddie Howe 10 out of 10 for the tactics. Although I don't know why Gordon was at the end. Apart from that,
for me, Connor, Anthony Gordon deserves to start from here on out, because he was part of those subs that changed the game completely.
I think he's worth a start. I just worry about the decision that Eddie Howe made today to sub him, because it's not great for a player's confidence at any circumstances to be subbed on then subbed off in the same game if you're not injured. And at that point in the game, I get it. You're maybe trying to waste a little bit of time, but there were other players you could have just taken off.
Longstaff.
Yeah.
Or sorry.
Richmond,
No, did he get sent up for Elliott?
Well, no, you could have come. Well, you could have went Longstaff. You could have potentially, I don't know, Joe Winton maybe. There was seconds left. It wasn't a change that was designed to do anything other than waste time. But when Gordon came off, he did look like he wasn't happy that Eddie Howe's subbed him on and subbed him off, because it's quite embarrassing, because it doesn't happen very often.
It was a tactical change, right? I mean, we brought off Gordon and we brought off, was it Willock? We brought on Lascelles and Elliot Anderson. And we shifted to a back five, more like a 5-4-1 or a 5-2-3, however you want to describe it. And I think we've done it multiple times. I think it's 3 times now this season. We've brought someone on, then brought them off. I think Elliot Anderson was the victim of one. I think Murphy's done it. Had it happen once. I think it's nothing more. I don't think that until we hear otherwise from people who are more in the know or clued up than we are in terms of the inner workings of the team, I think the safest thing to do is to just assume that he's a hungry young guy in the team, trying to impress, trying to make a statement for a start. He's going to be, some players will be more visibly unhappy than others. I think what he'll have happen is Trippier will put an arm around him, Bruno will put an arm around him after the game and say, it's going to happen. These things happen. It doesn't happen very often, but you need to not let it affect your confidence too much, and just take it as it comes. What matters is the win. That's what needs. That's what he needs to remember. Is just what matters is that we got 3 points in one of the hardest places to play in the league. And I think, like I say, he's young. He'll learn these things. He's come to us from a team where he's used to playing every game, or at least every game that he's available for, and being the star of the show effectively at times, and especially before it all went to pot this season for Everton. I think he'll be fine. I think there's nothing to it. I think we'd be doing him a disservice as a professional to spend too much time focusing on one little incident.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I totally agree. I think what it is. I think he's worth giving a start at some point, though, to your point, Steve. I wouldn't be against Anthony Gordon getting a start. I think one of the reasons he probably comes on off the bench is because he's got that explosive pace. So if legs are getting a bit tired, that last 20 minutes of the game, having a player like that in your back pocket actually is quite good, because that can cause defences problems, particularly if you're maybe not winning the game. But I think one thing that is incredible to me, over the years, right, we've had a fairly difficult time when it came to travelling down to London and facing the teams there. This season, we're unbeaten in London, and we've only got one more game to play down there, which is the last game of the season against Lampard's Chelsea.
We'll beat them easily.
Yeah, but hopefully by that point, third place will be wrapped up, and we'll just be going down there for a bit of a party. But I just think it's one of those incredible things that, again, that's a psychological hurdle to go over. We're not intimidated by coming to London, whether it's Arsenal, Palace, West Ham, Spurs,
especially not Chelsea.
No,
none of them.
Well, we usually beat Spurs at their place anyway. Usually, so it's not really a change.
Even when we were shit, that's true. We do have a decent record over it.
We have a good record against them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Before we wrap this up, people, give me your man of the match. I'll start with 10. I know mine.
I could say Bruno. I don't know. Most of the players weren't at it until the second half. So I guess just because he came on, I guess Anthony Gordon, just for that pace and that explosiveness. But to be honest, I can only judge it from the second half, because the first half, no one. But the second half, I think maybe Gordon or just really anyone.
Connor,
Anthony
what about
Gordon.
you? Fair enough.
Yeah, I can see the point with Gordon. I think, for me personally, with Joe Winton, because I think the work rate he puts in doesn't get appreciated as much as it should at times. I think he's overshadowed by the goals maybe that Isaac scores, or Wilson playing well, or Trippier, or names like that. But I think again today, you talk about just grabbing the bull by the horns, grabbing the game with the scruff of the neck, getting himself into that box. I don't care if officially they say it's an own goal. It's Joe Linton's goal, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
He's made it by himself. And I just think he deserves that, because that was what sparked us back into life and right into the game and into their faces to go and win it. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, because his head doesn't go down. You could be 3-0 down. You know Joe Linton's still going to go flying in there, because he's desperate to win games of football and to impress. And he's shown, I think, every bit of that £40 million that we spent for him, he's starting to show that now.
Fair enough. Ginger, what about you?
For me, I think Joe Linton's a very good shout. I thought Bruno was excellent. I thought you could even make a case for Wilson after he came on. For me, in the middle of our goal, Nick Pope. I thought Pope was fantastic today. 5 saves, 1 high punch to clear out of the box, 3 high claims in the box, all better than David Raya, including a penalty save against arguably the best penalty taker in the league.
I think that's the first time Tony's penalty has ever been saved. I think.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
He'd scored. I think he'd scored 37 in a row before that.
Wow.
And it's something, but then
but it was a bad penalty.
It was. It's a cleaner hit than you think when you see it from the other angles. The first angle from behind, it looks a bit lazy, but you see it from other angles. He hits it. He hits it better than you'd think. I think it's just Pope was just ready for it. And I think some of the reflex saves he made in the box were phenomenal, especially the one against Tony's head. I think it was his header, the one down low where he pushes it away. Yet again, Nick Pope proving that £12 million is an absolute bargain.
Yeah,
compared to most of the other players we've got in the squad.
Spot on. For me, man of the match, none other than Eddie Howe. Has to be for me. Has to be.
That's a cop out. That's a cop out. You have to be a player, man.
No. All right, if you want a player, it would be Joe Ellington. It would be Joe Ellington. Because he kickstarted the whole thing.
I think you can definitely give Eddie Howe his plaudits for it.
Absolutely, he needs to.
Because what Eddie Howe done that I really like, and it's something a lot of managers don't do, and it frustrates me when they don't do it and you're watching games of football. It wasn't working in the first half. We weren't really getting anywhere. And rather than doing that thing of, we'll see what happens in the first 20 minutes of the second half, let's see if the team talk works and we'll get those same players out there and just see if we can change it. He's went, nah, not having that. We need to make changes now, and let's go and grab this game by the scruff of the neck. And I think that's key. And it also shows the harmony in the team, because a lot of players wouldn't like being hooked at half time, but you know that they won't have a problem with it, because they'll see it and go, you know what, it's bettered the team in the end. And I just think, 10 out of 10 for him today for his performance, but he's not had the boots on, so you can't give him man of the match.
Well, he is a man, so...
You could also argue Bruno just for the sake of a match high 5 fouls won.
True.
Every time he gets the ball, he's a magnet for free kicks.
And that's what he's done his whole time at Newcastle and at Olympique Lyonnais and at Atlético Paranaense in Brazil. He's a technically gifted player. Teams have to game plan for him. They have to rough him up, because if they don't, he don't need much space to operate.
He's a shit house.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
Exactly. No, he's amazing. I was slightly edged Joe Ellington, but yeah, Bruno. There are a lot of shots for man of the match, because second half, everyone stepped up. So, but yeah, that's it from me. Really, make sure to smash the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the membership, only 99 pence. Discord. Get to find out who's on the Greenwood and Mulliner show about a week in advance, if I'm not mistaken. Members videos pretty much every day of the month, and much more. So yeah, fantastic win today. The first half was dreadful, but it's not about how hard you get punched. It's about how you get up and recover from it, and we certainly did. 2-1 win against Brentford. 3 wins in 6 days. I mean, it's been a while since we've been able to say that. It's madness. So, but yeah, thanks everyone for checking it out. Thank you to all my guests. Really appreciate it, and take care. Away the fucking lads.